Hello and welcome everyone. I hope you all are fine and safe. Once again, I'm back with another webinar. I am Pooja Pawar. I am a moderator for this webinar and I'm part of marketing team here at Infosec. And the use cases of digital twin in telecom and tower business. This is our fifth webinar, actually the second one in the series of asset management. We did a webinar right before this in October, and which set the context for this one. So in case somebody missed it and need a recording, please do reach out to us. I'd be happy to help. And I was managing this attender list. I'm really glad, and I really want to thank each one of you for joining us today from different time zones, different geographies. I really appreciate that, and it's only because of your support that we have come so far in this journey of delivering innovative thought leadership content to you. Uh, and I think I'm taking too much time, so let me get straight into introducing our panelists to you. In the panel, we have Ankur Lal. Ankur is the founder and CEO of Infosec, has more than 25 years of experience in telecom industry, a prolific contributor to international business publications within India and overseas. He speaks regularly in global conferences. And please welcome Ankur. Ankur, welcome to the webinar. Next, we have Vishal. Vishal is our fixed asset management product specialist. Vishal has really been involved with some of our top customers and have really understood challenges deeply in the ground level and has good idea about asset management data, challenges and solutions. So I would hand it over to Ankur to take you ahead into the webinar. Over to you, Ankur.
Thanks, Pooja. And welcome everyone. Good day to you. It's been a pleasure to speak with you about the changes. And in our last webinar, can we bring up this slide? And Pooja, am I also on display now, or can I be seen?
Yeah, Ankur, you're well met on the video. Vishal, can we have the slide, please? Yeah, thank you.
Okay,
I'm
I
ready.
can see you on the video, but I cannot see myself yet. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Um, so in the last webinar, we had spoken about digitization and asset visibility. The focus was really about assets and asset visibility. And what were the key drivers driving people towards move from people driven to data driven? And what we've seen is in the telco and the tower industry, a lot of our customers are constantly focused on bringing in better visibility, which helps them manage the network a lot better and also drive a lot more output. And during the last year, specifically with COVID related environment, the visit to sites have become more difficult. The safety has become more difficult. And we've seen a significant acceleration of teams and people kind of going towards the digital area. And in the area of the digital, one area which people have been talking a lot about is digital twin. So we thought we will spend some time discussing some use cases of digital twin today. And to begin with, on our next slide, I'm going to talk of a few cases of the digital twin. And these are use cases coming out from the industry, not necessarily from the telcos. And this is a use case where Singapore built a digital twin for itself. And in this, they created a virtual schema of roads, buildings, and public spaces, which gave them a real-time information from thousands and hundreds of thousands of sensors from the city, which would basically help them figure out where the network was there, where were the dark spots in their microwave network and their cellular coverage. They also use this information to figure out the movement of water level of flash floods if they were to come in, and this would help them prepare better for any contingency. So this is something which Singapore did, and the simulation has really helped them in kind of managing that much better. So it's basically a digital replica of the reality. On the next slide, I'm going to talk of something even more critical is safety. And this is back in the 70s when Apollo spacecraft was launched by NASA. As soon as it went into a launch, there was a snag, and that led to reduction in oxygen for the people on the crew, and they were frantically trying to figure out how to get oxygen to the crew. And then they resorted to a digital twin they had, which was a simulator which simulated the whole situation and then gave them clues to how to solve for it. And using that, they were able to actually do a rescue mission, provide that oxygen, and actually safeguard the crew there. So I think what I wanted to bring out is the value of a digital twin is very, very immense and large. It also depends on how accurately we are able to get the accurate data and replicate that and then take it from there. So those are certain factors which are very critical to make a digital twin work successfully. Let's look at what is the definition of the digital twin on our next slide now. So what exactly then is a digital twin, right? And it's basically a digital replica of a physical asset, an operating system, or a process, right? So it can be a replica, a digital replica, and it can be just of a physical asset. So if you have an image of an asset or you have a replica of an asset in a digital world, it can be of an asset. It can be of a process. So if it is a specific process which you undertake, so if you undertake field maintenance, it can be around field maintenance and you replicate that. If you do an audit of a site, it can be a replica of an audit of a site. It can be a video or an image, a drone-like inspection of a site, which will create a digital imagery and saying this is what that whole process looks like. And it can also be a replica of an operating system. And the operating system, we mean the holistic system, the whole system in itself. So if the whole system, the field system includes, asset management, it includes service management of the assets, it includes performance management, it includes metering. So it could be all of that as well. So in our case, what we will see in an example later on is both aspects of a process as well as of an operating system where we are going to look at it holistically. And what is it that the digital twin helps us provide? It helps us providing detection, so it would have some kind of an alert or detect. Then it provides us the ability to analyze and do some correction around it, take some preventive measures or predictive measures. And this, as a whole system, provides for optimization of operations. And this can be done along with data and data science. So that's what we apply. We look at a lot of data and data science in this process, and we achieve through this. And turning to the next slide, we'll talk of some of the objectives and the next steps around that. The key objectives for a digital twin project would be around maximizing asset ROI, improved CapEx planning for both future as well as some strategic rollouts. One key objective can be around transforming energy management, and this could lead to significant higher efficiencies. The energy world is going through a lot of transformation globally from traditional diesel. I think most of our customers are making a rapid journey into grid, and a lot of them we are seeing are actually moving into renewables. I was reading recently that I think in Europe for 2020, the renewable output exceeded the grid output. So what we are seeing is a very rapid shift there. And as we do a rapid shift, the efficiency matrix actually switches. And so that means a lot more data to come in, a lot more new normals to be defined. So what is the new efficiency element? And these are some things which we kind of deeply dive into getting the tools and the matrices so that one can actually build it. And finally, it is to really get better control over sites and assets, which means better predictability on sites, on assets, on tenancy levels, on the ability to proactively set up sites much better for higher tenancy or expansion with the onset of 5G as well as need for more coverage, right? There is a large need to basically constantly upgrade sites. And using a digital twin can really shorten the ability to upgrade and build better efficiencies. On our next slide, we're going to talk about the challenges and what it takes in a live environment. So today we are seeing an explosion of sensors on site. So these traditional telecom tower sites are now getting flooded with a plethora of sensors. And they could be around measuring load on a BTS. It could be around charging and discharging of a battery voltage or current, measuring around fuel consumption or DG run hours. And there could be a host of other data which is getting captured. Now, each of them has a different KPI or a matrix. And how do you kind of deal with it is becomes a enormous task. So if you notice this person on the right is finding it very tough to kind of correlate and validate this matrix and make sense of it and basically use it for a leverage point, because the data coming in is so large that one often gets overwhelmed with the data and decision making gets kind of slowed down. On our next slide, we actually see what are the key drivers on this. So if you look at the key drivers for data curation, the first one is, of course, connectivity, which means you have reliable connectivity to the different sites and you can bring in data. And as you bring in data, you can also do content. You can also do content around it. You can actually look at what is each of the elements coming from site contain. So the content which the data packet contains is very, very important. There are hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of packets coming in from the site on an ongoing basis. And as this content comes in, there's a need for context. All these packets need to be correlated in an effective way. They need to be validated to make some meaningful intelligence and sense about it. And as you start doing that, the next important aspect is about the network effect. As you start getting data from hundreds of different sensors on a given site, you need to correlate it. You need to correlate it in a period of time on a time series matrix. And then based on that intelligence, you can start to use that insights to better manage the site. And as you start better managing the site, you can actually extend this network effect to tens of sites or hundreds of sites. And as you extend this to a network effect, it becomes far more powerful, right? And that's where the power of digital twin really comes into play. So the real trick is to go after the network effect. At the same time, at each point, there's a very large need for reliability. The data you are getting from site, is it reliable? Is the content, the packets coming in reliable? Because if the data is not reliable, a lot of energies will get dissipated just validating and verifying that data. Right? The other element as the network goes up, which we are starting to see has become an increasing prerogative, is around security. Because as the size of network goes up, the vulnerability points become very significant, and it's become very important to ensure that the network is secure and you can actually perform on that seamlessly. Let's get to our next slide. So on this slide, I wanted to kind of change gears and look at what does a digital twin means in a context of a telecom tower company. So if you look at this map in front of you, these are over 1,000 sites. And these sites are basically color coded in different colors. So the red actually indicates that the site needs attention and something is not working. The green indicates that it's a normal site, so you can just ignore them and it can keep working as is. And the orange indicates that there is an alert but not a critical alert. So this is one way of kind of flagging that and kind of flagging attention and filtering. There are of course several other filters which you can go through and assess the size and what actions need to be done. And to take us into this a little bit further, as well as to get into the use cases of some specific use cases we are going to discuss today, I'm going to request my colleague Vishal to take over from me here. And Vishal, will you take over from here?
Sure. Thank you so much, Ankur, for setting up the context and actually relating this webinar back with our previous webinar, wherein we discussed that how important it is for all the organizations across the telecom tower space to have clear visibility into the site asset environment. Because as we all know, and as I keep repeating myself, right, uh, if we do not have clear visibility into the asset environment, then these assets do not take much time before they turn into liabilities, right? And before we dive into the elements of digital twin, what I want to do is I want to shoot a poll, and I would request all the participants, all the respected participants, to participate in this poll and provide their valuable feedback. They will have approximately 40 seconds to answer the question, And the question will be now on their screen. And the time starts now. So at which stage of data collection do you believe that your organization is at right now? So is it somewhere between 0 to 40, or is it between 40 to 70% of the data which has been collected from the sites, from the assets deployed geographically? Or is it between 70 to 90% or 90 to 100 maybe, right? All right. So I think the time's up. The poll ends right now. Let me just share the results with everyone over here. So as you can see, 50% of the participants believe that they are still between 40 to 70%, and there is a tie between 0 to 40% and 70 to 90%. And this is what we also have observed, that some of the organizations have already started on a journey of data collection. They already have a data management strategy, right? And but most of the organizations are still relying on Excel sheets or hard copy checklists in order to manage their assets, in order to track their assets, right? So this webinar we are going to cover the data management strategies which will be applicable across all the organizations which have a data management strategy between 0 to 40 or 40 to 70 or 70 to 90, right? So how do we make this data more consumable for you, right? So all you see on this particular screen right now is a map with thousands of sites, right? Now, to determine if the assets are overworked or underutilized, or maybe meeting or not meeting the compliance requirements, as well as to carry CapEx planning effectively, the telecom and tower companies need full visibility of assets, right? Now, since the data penetration is so deep into the people's lives right now, the number of smartphone users have been increasing exponentially, and this is leading to an exponential increase in the number of cell towers as well. Now, because of this, what is happening? Uh, it is leading to establish more and more connectivity so that telecom companies can improve their reach among the people. Now, what happens is, since the infrastructure is increasing and getting more and more enhanced, because of that, there is a dire need to implement or deploy more and more critical and expensive assets, right, across the tower sites. So when we say assets, what do we actually mean by assets? So let us see the other element of digital twin, which are the actual assets. So right now, what you see on the screen are some of the at a very high level, what is a site configuration look like, right? But if you go and visit a particular site, you will see that it is highly complex, because there will be an exhaustive list of assets spread over multiple locations, and also under a constant threat of vandalism, especially when we say that the sites are located at a remote area, right? Now, the inefficiency of the legacy tools in monitoring, tracking, and managing assets result in unaccounted assets. They result in ghost assets in your financial books. And in fact, it also leads to a lot of idle assets and a lot of discrepancies in the asset records, because these records are currently being maintained in silos by different and respective departments of your organization. Now, with every single rollout of technology, the assets grow exponentially and lead the network to more vulnerabilities. Now, the lack of a clear overview of the asset environment hinders optimal network enhancement, right? So how can we stay connected to these assets, or how do we stay connected to to all the sites which are there in our portfolio, right? So this is a very important question, and we all know that our active infrastructure is currently all sorted. We get all sorts of alarms, we get all sorts of data packets through OSS, and they get dumped into our NOC or our TOC, right? But how do we make sure that the passive infrastructure is also as cognitive as the actual infrastructure. Now, this is where the element of IoT, right? So this is another element which helps us get connected with all these assets and the sites. Now, in an asset intensive business like this, IoT technology is helping connect millions and billions of assets spread across geographies with organizational goals through something as simple as internet these days, right? Now, this helps organizations digitally transform their operations, optimize their business models, and enhance the productivity of the very same assets, or maybe we can say also of the network of the people and the processes which are being followed. So, in a nutshell, we can say that IoT is acting as a giant mesh network of connected devices, which is helping in the collection and sharing of data remotely. Now, some of the examples of IoT devices that can be used are there on your screen, right? Which can be embedded inside the equipments by your OEM vendors or can be strategically tagged on top of the assets, right? But do we really have to invest into these IoT devices in order to start our journey? Uh, there are options, right? So there are options. So we have an option. So in order to initiate the process, in order to initiate the journey of being data driven, we can even start with something as simple as QR codes or a barcode, which helps us to identify the assets, which helps us to actually track and manage our assets more efficiently, right? Now we talked about IoT. What is IoT going to do, right? How will it connect us? It will connect us through the data because it is the data at the end of the day which will make you aware of your asset ecosystem, right? So let us see what is this kind of data that we are looking at. So this is the data that we are actually looking at right now. So there is a sensing data, the data which is getting relayed at present from the sites or from the assets. And then also there is some data which is getting predicted, which is getting forecasted. Now this data which is getting forecasted, it is a result of this present data of this IoT data, which is getting processed through a digital solution, right? Now just imagine the volume of data being collected for one asset on a site, right? These are some of the parameters that you see on your screen, which are coming from for a particular asset from a particular site. And when we say that there are millions of assets and thousands of sites, just imagine the humongous volume of data which will be entering, right? Now, this asset could be a battery, which is further categorized into multiple manufacturers, models, and types. This data then getting processed and transformed to derive key insights in the form of predictions. And then when we align a site technician or any other responsible party to take an action due to an insight, and that insight could be a forecasted issue with the battery, right? Now, when we assign that site technician and he visits the site, he is all the more prepared to tackle that situation, right? Now, before that, let us see that how this data is getting processed. What is that process that will make this data more consumable? Now, data visualization and analytics is another element of digital twin, which is making this consumption of data all the more convenient and effective, right? Now, this element of consumption of data, because if you think through the data which you receive from the sensors is a raw data, which is of highly transactional nature, right? Now you cannot make out something from it because these are data packets that are being received right now. Now the digital solution should have the capability of filtering and validating this data and turning it from big data. So when we say humongous data, we say big data. So from big data, this data needs to get converted to the right data because it is very important to know that which data will create more value for you because a lot of things will come into your plate, but not everything is that you desire, right? And then making this right data available to right stakeholders is another task. So actually, all the departments and all the people in the organization would go through a journey, which is a data journey. So this data journey starts from collecting the data, then processing this data, validating this data. And once the validation happens, that data is then transformed in something meaningful, which can derive insights. Now, these insights will get converted into actions, and these actions will in return create value and outputs for the whole organization. Now, the most important part about this data is to make it available across the organization through different digital solutions and make sure that all the systems and departments have a clear and accurate view of this data. Now, I'll just give you a quick example that how effective it can be, right? So I was talking about a site technician getting aligned for an issue with a battery on a site, right? Now just imagine once this data is received and an automatic ticket is created, the system uses its AI and ML capabilities to predict or to inform that which particular site technician can actually tackle the issues related to a battery. And in fact, the kind of insights that you will receive because of the periodic data, because the sensor data which came in and the forecasted data that was generated, right now it is acting as an existing data lake for this site technician. It is empowering this site technician to actually decide, even before visiting the site, whether he needs to replace the battery or he can repair the battery, whether the battery is under warranty, not under warranty, of what sort of action he needs to take so that he goes to the site all prepared. He reduces the turnaround time because he's able to fix the issue very fast and more efficiently, right? So this is the power of data if it is made available to the right stakeholders at the right time before any crisis actually happens so that you can prevent those crises instead of dealing with those crises, right? So at this point, I would talk about the multiple departments, right? So we all are aware that there is a procurement department, a finance department, operations and maintenance, network project implementation team, network design team, customer billing team, right? There are different departments which are available. Now, the most important part is that if you look at these departments, these are not just the departments, right? This is actually the life cycle of a particular asset wherein it is getting procured, it is getting capitalized, getting maintained and tracked, getting implemented, right? The sites are getting designed, and eventually you are renting out these equipments to your customers and you charge them for this, right? Now let us just see that what this digital twin is, because we talked about data, we talked about different elements which are working synergetically in order to create an impact for organizations. Let us just also get acquainted with the actual digital twin which can get created, right? So this is the digital twin. And to make all this happen, having a digital twin of each side becomes highly important. A digital twin gives you a comprehensive real-time and reliable 360-degree view into your site and asset environment. For one of our customers in MENA region, we have already initiated this journey of collecting the data, right? Then transforming this data and visualizing over 1,000 data points along with a magnitude of images, CAD drawings, as well as documents, lease related, right? Site design related documents, all those documents. Now, this is not only to transform their NOC operations to predict and eliminate possible threats, or for their network planning team to get to know how many equipments a tenant has installed on a site and how much EPA it is actually consuming, but this data is now getting integrated with their ERP as well, right? To make sure that the net book value or the return on investment of a site or all the assets are maintained accurately, and the finance department of your organization doesn't have to go through those nightmares of not able to meet the compliances, the regulatory compliances. This data will now be able to interact with your CRM as well, right? In order to make sure that you're charging your customers accurately and on time to shorten the payable cycles, or sorry, the receivable cycles. And similarly, this also integrates with your supply chain to make sure that your CapEx planning is all the way more enhanced, and you are able to have a clear visibility into the unutilized or the idle assets so that you can make more informed decisions, right? Now, let us just look at some of the use cases, right? So we might be discussing, let us say, a couple of use cases out of 100 use cases that a digital twin can cater to. But let us go through these use cases to understand the power of digital twin. So the very first use case that we are going to discuss will be we will be discussing a complete operating system wherein the departments are working cross functionally, right? And the network design and the procurement go hand in hand. So let us see how this happens right now and how with the help of digital twin we can actually optimize this. So this is a very high level process that takes place whenever a customer request is generated, right? So there are four typical stages. The very first stage of being of demand initiation, and then high level, creating a high level design of the site, then a low level design, and then planning your demand or initiating the demand. Initiating in the sense that you create a PR and a PO. So what actually happens in the demand initiation phase, you receive a request from the customer that they want to deploy more assets on the site, right? Now what happens is that design team, to create a high level design, they depend a lot on their MSPs. So what they do, they send their MSPs to the sites, and they are carrying all these hard copy checklists, this hard copy survey checklist to actually capture the data, right? Now this data is getting captured, getting converted into an Excel at the design team end, and then this data moves into a CAD system to produce a high level design, right? Once this design is approved, the customer issues the work order. And then for the low level design, a more detailed design of the site, another hard copy checklist gets filled by the MSP team who have to visit again to the site. And then again, that manual data entry into the Excel, then into the CAD, prepare a design, and then that design, from that design, a shopping list is prepared, right? So by the network build team, they will prepare a shopping list. That shopping list will be shared to the procurement department from where a PR and a PO process will be initiated. Now, looking at this, it looks so simple. It looks like that there are no loopholes, right? Everything is going as per what it should. But let us now understand what are the gaps. So first, let us look at the gaps in the network design process. So what is happening is that the design team right now are relying heavily on the site technicians or on the MSPs to capture the design data from the sites every time a request comes in. And right now we are just discussing one request coming from one customer, and we know the scenario, right? There are multiple requests which get generated by a single customer for let us say 500 sites or maybe 100 sites or 50 sites, right? Now, what is happening is that the technician who is visiting the site, sometimes he is not matured enough or experienced enough to capture such data with full accuracy. So in that case, it requires multiple visits for a single process, right? In order to get the accurate data. Now, once this data is being made available to the design team, let us say even in the first go, they get the completely accurate data. Now what happens? Design team has to convert these hard copy checklists, up heaps of hard copy checklists into Excels, which leads to human errors. And then manually they enter this data into the CAD system, which again adds to those errors. Now what is actually happening in this case is that your response time to the customer is getting increased, and it gets increased so much that your customers get enough time to actually look out for another tower company to see that whether we will get a competitive bid or not, right? And and most of all, even if you get the order, the call for RFI is also delayed, leading to revenue leakage. Now, call for RFI is getting delayed because let us say if The shopping list which has been prepared was error prone, was not accurate. Then the site project will get stalled for days or sometimes even for weeks because the critical assets which are required are not available, right? So in that case, the call for RFI is getting delayed and your revenue leakages start to happen. Now let us understand it from the procurement perspective as well. A procurement team have low visibility into the unutilized and idle assets. So the validation process, the request validation process gets extended quite a lot. And since there are inaccuracies in the shopping list also, it leads to inaccurate PR and POs getting generated. Now, to add to the challenges, manual data entry into ERP may lead to more inaccurate PR and POs. So what happens? You deal with overstock or understock issues in your procurement. Now, because of that, what is happening? Your PR, PO, and vendor selection process needs to be initiated again if the project is getting stalled in between, which is, we all know how complex is that process. And then again, your call for RFI is getting more delayed, leading to revenue leakages because we don't know how much the lead time is to actually get that critical asset from the vendor, right? So these are some of the gaps which we can identify in a very simple process that we just saw, right? Now, if we move ahead, how will the digital twin help here, right? Now, when we talk about network design team, if you look at it, the network design team right now, if there is a digital twin which is implemented, right, they will have both the network design and the procurement will have a look into the single source of truth, right? They don't have to spend a lot of time visiting unnecessarily to the sites or looking or getting the data validated through other teams like the warehouse teams because there might be tens of warehouses available, right? So what actually happens? So for the network design team, the tower structure type, number of antennas and RRUs, who owns these antennas and RRUs, what is the maximum power load, consumed power load, so much of data being available to the network design team. Similarly, for the procurement, they can have within just few clicks, they can have a view of how many unutilized assets do I still have in my warehouses, which warehouse is the most nearest to the sites wherein these assets need to get deployed, right? How many assets are we already have which are ready for redeployment, right? Which have been refurbished and are ready for redeployment. How many of such assets are already there, right? If you have the whole picture in front of you, the bigger picture in front of you, you are in a much better situation to actually predict and forecast, right? So let us see that how this predictability and forecasting factor which comes into the play affects your operations. So by operations, I mean how this process will now get optimized because of the digital twin. So now if you look at it, what is happening? Right now, design team is relying on the available data for design. So we just talked about there are a lot of data which will now be available for the design team. And that is a relevant data, not just any data, but the relevant data which the design team requires to visit the site and then capture that data by performing a survey. They don't have to do that. It is readily available in the system. Now, because of this complete and accurate data made available with just a few clicks on the system or on the mobile, the whole process is getting digitized and there is no need of managing piles of checklists and multiple versions of Excels, which create a huge mess when you have to synchronize this data, right? And this data can then automatically be exposed to your CAD system for creating flawless designs. Now, in the whole process, we don't have to delay any any element of this particular process. So by delay, what I mean is that the time to respond to customer reduces drastically. And call for RFI happens on time, leading to revenue optimization, right? So we are able to reduce risk. We are able to predict We are able to manage our costs. And in fact, we are also able to manage our revenue. Some things which only digital twin can help us with. Let us also analyze it from the procurement's perspective again. Now, procurement team has clear visibility into idle and unutilized assets. The shopping list becomes more accurate than before. So the demand request validation happens faster because now they don't have to shoot out multiple emails to the warehouse teams and get those Excels validated by them. And then when they receive the response, managing those multiple versions and creating a single source of truth, they don't have to spend so much time over there, right? Effective inventory management happens with optimized capex planning because now you have a view which all assets already there in the warehouses or unutilized asset at some particular site can be utilized in order to make sure that you do not overspend or underspend also during your capex planning, right? So basically you are reducing the probability of project delay drastically. And in fact, you are creating room for predictability and forecasting of your next procurement cycles accordingly, maybe based on different kinds of assets, maybe based on sites, a lot of parameters on which you can actually predict your procurement cycles. And then the third most important part, the revenue management. The call for RFI happens on time because now you don't have to wait or get a project stalled because of any overstock or understock issue, right? So revenue optimization is also at its peak. So these are some of the benefits that procurement department can also realize. And if you look at the overall benefits, then there will be a drastic savings of almost 15 to 20% in your capex in your initial implementation phase itself due to prediction of procurement cycles. The procurement processes are getting transformed from being budget based to being need based. So you don't have to think of that whether my budget is allowing me or not. You already have an actual need in front of you, and based on which you can actually forecast your procurement budget for that, right? So these are some of the critical benefits that you can realize if you have a digital twin. So your network design and procurement department are able to synchronize and work together, right? Now let us also look at another use case. So now in this another use case, I want to bring in another kind of, which is very critical, another kind of asset, which is energy, right? And we will look at it from a process twin perspective. So we are creating a digital twin, but of the process. How can we modify the process in order to make sure that we achieve optimization at a more higher level, right? So let us have a look at it. So now if you see the energy management part, there are lots of bills which get generated, right? Electricity bills, fuel bills, because as we all know, our sites are connected to the grid. We also have to deploy gensets or generators on the sites in order to make sure that we don't have to deal with site down situations at any point of time due to an outage, right? But there are a lot of bills that get generated, hard copy bills, handwritten bills, right? There could be Excel bills or some of the bills that you receive maybe in some different language, right? Now imagine when these bills are made available to the energy department, what they have to go through, because now what they're doing is they're actually managing, validating, and reconciling all these bills manually. They don't have an automated system from which they can actually do this. And with that, what happens when they have to go back to the finance department to get the invoices approved, they again have to convince the finance department for that. So a lot of data synchronization gaps between the energy department as well as the finance department. So within the organization itself. And then there are external disputes with the vendor as well, because now you're not able to make payments to the vendor on time. Maybe the electricity vendor gave you a time limit of 20 days to pay off your bills, but it took almost 10 days for you to receive the bill. And then this validation, the whole validation process took another 10 or 12 days to get completed. And so in the end, what is happening is that you're making late payments to the vendor. So again, a very simple, a very high level process that we are discussing right now. Let us just have a look at what kind of gaps we can analyze in this process. So as I said, heaps of hard copy and Excel bills from multiple vendors and manual validation and reconciliation of bills delays the whole process. There are interdepartment disputes and disputes with the vendor. Now, what is actually happening that the vendor payments are getting delayed, which lead to penalties, so which is actually adding to your costs. Now, also another critical factor which we could not identify in the process, but which actually is there, is that the energy data is become non-actionable. So there is a limited analysis that can be done on this data. So the predictability or forecasting factor drops down drastically, right? And the budget provisioning and forecasting cannot take place because of this. So you cannot, so it takes a lot, there are a lot of challenges with this process to actually forecast the energy budgets for the next year, or the should be cost of energy for the next year or next month, or maybe for next 6 months. It is highly difficult to do that, right? So let us see how the digital twin will help us. Now over here, what will happen, we are relating back to one of our slides wherein we talked about real-time data coming in and then an analysis being done of that data, right? And create an existing data lake. So what we are doing right now is that we are having such data parameters like what is the average generator run hour, daily generator run hour, monthly fuel filled, right? And if the IoT is there in place, then with the IoT data, we can actually reconcile whether the filler has filled that much fuel in the fuel tank or not, right? What is the capacity of the battery and is it running on its optimal capacity level or not, right? Some of these factors and then getting into a digital solution, which is creating an analysis like trend analysis, time period analysis. For a battery, it could be a battery cycle analysis, right? For a generator, it could be a generator consumption analysis, grid analysis, right? Moving average reports. So much of data getting processed and made available to the departments eases out the process, right? Now let us just see, and digital twin, we are right now talking about the data, but the digital solutions are also a part of the digital twin, right? So let us see how these digital solutions and how this data transformation is actually helping ease out the process. So now if you look at it, there is another key factor which is coming in. Now with this amount of data, you can actually plan your energy. You can actually control your energy, because till now there were a lot of there were uh, all most of the organizations were majorly depending on the grid and the generators, right, and the batteries. But right now you can even plan solar farms, right, using the data. So you can plan whether you want to have a solar farm or not. You can actually plan whether you have to whether you can have wind energy systems or not, right? And then if the data is and if you are using real-time IoT data, in that case, like for example, you can deploy smart energy meters or IoT fuel sensors, right? So from that, what is happening, whatever bills come to you, the hard copy bills, once they get uploaded into the system, they are getting automatically reconciled with the actual data which is already available in the system, right? And you don't have to wait for long processes of validating this data with the vendor, with the finance department, or within your teams itself. Within the energy department, there could be multiple approvers, right? So you don't have to wait for that. The data gets reconciled. If there are any discrepancies, that gets highlighted, taken up with the vendor. If there are no discrepancies, then in that case, the bill gets approved by the approvers right there using the mobile application, right? Because the OCR facility from let us say the digital solution is making it all the more possible to actually read that data from the bills and making it reconcile with the available data. And then the payments to the vendor is happening on a real-time basis. So your payable cycle is getting shortened as well, and your relationship with the vendor is improving. Now, if you look at it from the optimization perspective, the real-time sensor inputs are coming from the site and the automated reconciliation of the bills is taking place. The approval process is faster through mobile and brings more transparency, and your vendor payments are also getting taken care of on a timely manner. So basically, your expense management process is getting optimized. Even for the finance department, this is a major use case, right? Now, this data is also becoming actionable for you, right? And you will be able to provision and forecast your energy costs or the should be cost of the energy more conveniently, and it will be more convincing than ever, right? And the most important part in all of this, you are able to actually control the energy on a site. So how you're able to control the energy? So let us say at some point in the night, if the DG fails, if there is an outage with the grid, you can actually decide whether the system will run on solar power or whether it will run on battery. You can actually switch the connection from different between the different sources of energy, right? So if we look at the overall benefits of this particular solution, it helps you monitor grid, fuel, battery, and renewable consumption in real-time basis, right? Because of which you are able to eliminate manual monthly bill validation and reconciliation processes. Your energy budget forecast is now all the more stronger, right? You can derive your should be cost for energy in, let's say, for next 6 months or a year, right? And in fact, you can have responsive data for balancing electric loads while reducing blackouts. So you can actually control your energies to switch between different sources of energy. So these are the kind of benefits, even so I would say this is actually making your energy more smart, making the people more smart, making the whole process more smart. Because since the number of end users are increasing, the number of sites are increasing, network infrastructure sharing is increasing. Because of all these factors, the energy will be a game changer for the complete environment, right? And not just the environment, but also for the business. Moving on, let us just have a look at the success criteria of digital twin. So let us just have a look at whether we were able to achieve these success criteria. So were we able to optimize cost? Yes, we have been able to optimize our capex as well as the operational spend, right? We were able to reduce site visits. We were able to control our energy costs. We were able to control our procurement costs. And then comes the part which is revenue management. Yes, we were able to manage our revenue because we are able to declare RFI much before than we expected, right? Identifying and mitigating risks. Yes, we are mitigating risks. We are able to predict that whether in an outage situation, what needs to be done, we are able to predict that. And we are able to save any SLA breach incidents or any heavy penalties that get put forward by the customers. Process enhancement is taking place. There is a lot of visibility and reliability which is coming in to the data, right? And the operations are getting more and more enhanced and smoothened because of this digital twin, right? Now, if I move ahead and if I talk about some of the key takeaways from the couple of use cases that we just discussed, I think it is an amalgamation, right? Digital twin is not just a term, it is an amalgamation of all the technologies working together, as I said, synergetically in order to create values for you, right? So there will be a lot of control on inventory. There will be better predictability because of digital twin, and this can only be achieved if the data is there and if there are ready-made advanced data modeling solutions available to apply these, right? And the most important factor in all of this is that these technologies would still need people's intelligence to control and manage them, right? So moving ahead, I just want to say that we as Infosec can definitely help you accelerate your digital twin implementation because you just saw that there are a plethora of technologies that are playing around in order to improve business values for you. But with the advanced with the advancements of technologies growing at a very high pace, it becomes difficult, very difficult to consume these technologies. And this is what our motto is, right? We want to make sure that you are able to consume technology much more faster and much more intelligently. So this is where I would like to hand it over to Ankur for his closing comments and for driving the presentation ahead, the webinar ahead.
Thank you, Vishal. Thank you for sharing with all of us this afternoon today about the digital twin and also going through the use cases and how digital twin can really help us in an overall larger context. I think the role of InfoSec is basically a catalyst, somebody who can partner you and catalyze you in that journey. Now, that journey, if we could actually be to deepen the journey to figure out one or two areas which are you're doing well, how can we help you do better? And or to accelerate the journey. At times you're kind of stuck, you have some obstacles, some things need to be validated. Those are areas we can fine tune, as well as if there's some tools required, we can help you with that as well. So on the next slide, I'm going to talk a little bit about some of these areas where we can actually help you with. So some of our core areas where we have been working with customers and have built a degree of expertise, we've built some solutions around it. We also have some off the shelf uh, products or components, modules around it. Are one is asset management. So the whole gamut of asset management, life cycle and performance management, how it integrates back to the ERP is something which is very, very unique for us. And that's something which kind of we do it in a very, very efficient way. The other element is the single integrated platform. And by that, what we refer to is basically looking at the whole network and being able to collect the data from the network and then being able to correlate it, derive intelligence, and then being able to send it to downstream systems for action. One of the things we do there is actually do preventive and predictive maintenance, which is to actually use that intelligence to now being able to predict a maintenance schedule and do it in a far more effective ways. The other element we look at is predicting for energy, consuming, tracking real-time energy consumption, and then being able to predict the energy consumption, like Vishal talked about, the should be cost is something which we can look at. Some other elements which we look at is site acquisition and rollout. As I shared earlier, there's a lot of emphasis right now on site acquisition and rollout and management for upgrades of solutions as well, upgrading sites. And that's something which we can actually bring in using the same system in terms of capturing data and deploying it intelligently. And all of this is also usable from an analytics engine perspective. So when you look at the real-time analytics engine, you can actually apply that in an intelligent way and overall solve for it. And there's some other cases where you can apply for it. Now on the next slide, I'm going to really lay out for you a step process where you could actually consider running a short pilot or something or doing a stepwise process. The first step is really to identify the actual need to be fulfilled. And this would be unique to each one of you, figure out what needs to be done, how it needs to be done, and then kind of build a proof of concept, what to define a proof of concept and build it. Start measuring outcomes, standardizing the process. And the next step is really to start scaling it, which is step 5. How do you scale the digital twin? Do you scale it about few sites, tens of sites, and then how you take it across the network, right? Can you scale the digital twin across hundreds and thousands of sites, and can it become really completely present all over, all pervasive? And that's where you start seeing a lot of benefit. So if you see the size of these circles 1 to 6, as you get to step 6, the impact becomes much larger. The size of the circle is basically indicative of what is the impact this will do. And on the next slide, we're going to talk about how you can actually construct what are the key elements. So you could start with a small set of, say, 10 to 15 sites and define those outcomes. Then you could say, you want to tag them or do some data collection, do transformation, define a KPI matrix. Then once all of this is in place, you can actually define a AI-based ML data modeling can be done around it. And in parallel, you do integration with third parties, you figure out what are the actionable insights, and all of these insights then need to turn to ROI. So this could be a process which could take 8 to 12 weeks, or in some cases, we've seen it has taken much longer. But this is the way how you can go around and experiment and see how you can take this journey forward and make it more valuable and more immersive. Right. Next slide, please. So I think I want to conclude, right? What I would like to say is we started about these three aspects of digital twin. We talked about the asset, we talked about the process, and we talked about the operating system. Now, depending on what your appetite is, what you want to get into, you could either start with asset, or you could start with process, or you could start at a holistic angle and saying, I will do the whole operating system together. But I think there's a lot of momentum in the field. There's a lot of advantages to go out and experiment with a digital twin strategy and go forward from there. I think I'm just looking at the clock. We're probably out of time. Back to you, Pooja. Thank you so much for attending today, and it's been a real pleasure talking to you. Uh, Pooja, back to you.
Thank you, Ankur. Thank you, Vishal. So here we come to the end of this webinar. The forum is now open for all the queries, questions. So we are here. We'll stay here for some time. Thank you everyone for joining us. If you still have some questions, our panelists are still here. Please do ask. Ankur, we have a question from Mahmood Salame. Is
Yes,
the
I think the
solution?
question is the solution applicable for other than the telco industry? So as of now, we have deployed it primarily in the telco and the towerco industry. We have done some pilots with some other service providers, specifically in the utility area. It is not deployed that yet. So I think it is possible to deploy it in an adjacent industry. As of now, we don't have a deployed solution working in an adjacent industry as of now.
Thank you, Ankur. Mahmood, I hope it answered your question.
Also, if you'd like to share with us any comments or reflections, I think Pooja can open the mic for you, and we can also share if you want to share any reflections on the session.
Yeah, it would be good to hear from you. Do let me know if you want to talk to Ankur, Vishal. Okay, so we are closing it as of now. So, but you still have any questions or anything else to share with us, how you like the content of this webinar, do reach out to us. You can reach out to us at sales@infosec.com. You can write to me at pooja.pawar@infosec.com, or you can reach out to Ankur directly. We are all open for your feedbacks. Thank you so much. I hope to see you again later in our webinar. You'll get an invitation for that also. Thank you so much for joining us today.